Hey guys, how are you doing? My name is Ernesto Vasquez, and today I'm going to be teaching you about Cisco and some of the vocabulary that you will be encountering in your vocabulary quiz. Um, okay, so first off, I'm going to do this through a program called Packet Tracer, which you will hopefully be using in the near future. Just going to go over a quick couple simple things. First of all, this entire space right here, this is called your workstation area, and basically this is like your play area. You can put any devices up here, whether it's a router, and you'll see that it's labeled routers right here. Switches, which are also labeled right here. Hubs. I can click on them, and then I have a large selection of switches that I can use. I can also get a selection of hubs, generic access points, and devices. But for this lesson, we're going to be working with uh, routers, end devices, which are computers, or laptops, or servers, or printers, and switches, which could be any of these. Um, let's see. The first thing we're gonna do is, um, by the way, you can just create here and have fun here. Just gonna go through one of the labs, reference some of the vocabularies. Pay attention to the vocabulary words as they come up. I'm going to go through some of the more basic vocabulary terms to start out with, and then we're going to, as we move on forward with the labs and further and future videos, then more vocabulary terms will come out, and you'll be able to see them in some sort of a context. Okay, so let's try that. I'm going to just take this one away. Open this. No, I don't want to save this. Uh, Now, at some point, you should have gotten a folder. Let me see. You should have gotten a folder that has set like one of these three: CCNA, routing protocols and concepts, networking fundamentals, or the PKA source file. As beginners, we're going to be working with PKA source files. Okay, if you don't have one of these folders, let your coach know, and one of the regional coaches will get him these materials out as soon as possible. Okay, you want to go through all of these in order, or ones that interest you. You know, it doesn't have to be in order. For our purposes, to start with the basic stuff, we're going to be going over configuring initial switch configurations. Okay. Okay. Whenever you open up a lab, you'll see this prompt pop up. Don't worry about it. Just click OK. Okay. And at any time when you're doing a lab, you can always check down here. Which also, by the way, these are your instructions that you can bring up at any time. You're going to be working off of these, as a matter of fact. You click check results, assessment items, and then you can see how much of the lab you have completed. And there are 72 items here that you have to complete, and you've completed 12 before we even started, so that's good news. Okay, and to exit, just click up here, and we'll be working off of these instructions. Okay. Packet tracer configuring initial switch settings. Objectives: verify the default switch configuration. Part 2, configure a basic switch configuration. Configure a MOTD banner, which means message of the day. Save configuration files to NVRAM, which is non-volatile random access memory. And then we're going to do the same thing to switch 2. You'll see that they're labeled here S2 and S1, which is connected to PC1 and PC2. Okay. Background. In this activity, you will perform basic switch configurations. You will secure access to the command line interface, CLI. So when you open up a switch, you'll see that you get tabs config and CLI. This is a command line interface, and this is what you encounter on a real world situation, which would be this. Normally you would interface through a external PC through a console port, and you would use something like PuTTY or some kind of a hyper terminal, and then you would get this kind of prompt will come up, and then you can start working from there. Okay. And for lab purposes also, they kind of keep you on track by locking out other things. So if I can do physical to show you what the physical router looks like, kind of, but I can't configure stuff from here because, as you can see, it's locked. Okay, so I'm bring up my instructions again. Close this guy out. Bring up my instructions. Okay. So, the first vocabulary word we're going to go through is called enable mode. Okay, so basically, And we can see right here the command for enable is here. So it says, let's see, to enter privileged mode. So you can access all switch commands from privileged mode. However, because many of the privileged commands configure operating parameters, privileged access should be password protected to prevent authorized use. Okay, so that's going to bring up two things. One thing that's going to bring up is the enable mode, which is the mode that allows you to access the viewing of configurations within a switch, and it also allows you to access further privileges, which would be something like global configuration mode, which is a privilege where, like, basically from that mode you can make any kind of change to the router that you wish to make. Okay, and everything, all these privileges go by levels. Okay, so when you first enter a switch, let me open up the switch here. Okay, let's pretend I just connected through another computer through the console port, which I will go over also. It is one of the vocabulary terms. My suggestion for you guys is, while you're going through this stuff, pull out a notepad right here, like let's say one of this, and then type out stuff like to enable privilege mode. I'm not even sure if I spelled that right. I'm probably not, but bear with me. Privilege mode, and then type in something like what it would look like. So the switch name and the command. Okay, that's how you would do it, right? And then something like to configure. Configure the switch or router. And then let's say you typed in enable mode, then the next line would look like this: switch, and then we'll have a little hashtag or pound sign or whatever you want to call it, and then you would say configure terminal. Okay, that what you want to do is you want to write down what the command does, and you also want to write down where you are in the configuration. Okay, so that's just as a tip. So okay, so we're in privilege mode. Let me just close this out. So that's just advice. Write everything down, take notes, make sure you know what the command is and what it's for, and then also look at your vocabulary list and reference it back so you can have some sort of a context. Okay, so I'm just going to close this out. Don't save. I have a list already. Okay, so let's start. So I'm going to click on my switch. I'm just going to hit enter to give me a switch, and you can see right here that it has the word switch because that's the hosting mode of the switch, and it has a little arrow which kind of tells you where you are. Pay attention to what it's telling you here because it tells you where you are in the privileges, and it tells you what part of the configuration you're in. So right now we're in the switch with the little arrow, so we're in like user mode. So basically this is like the most outside privilege you can have, where you can do any kind of command at all. Okay, oops. Okay, if you make some kind of mistake and it starts telling you this translating something, this kind of an indexing thing, just press Control, Shift, and 6 to exit that, and it'll take you right back to where you need to be. Okay, so we want to go up one level of privilege into privileged mode, privileged exec mode. And to do that, we're going to type the command enable. Okay, now notice the difference here between the switch with the little arrow right here and then the switch with the little hashtag or pound sign. I'm just going to call it hashtag. Notice that it has that hashtag right here. It's telling you that you're in a different level of privilege. You're in a different place in the whole scheme of the router or the switch. Okay, so right now you're in something called privilege exec mode, and for here, one thing I want to tell you really quickly is whenever you're trying to find out what can I do from where I'm at, there's two ways of doing things here. If you know a little part of the command, a little piece of it, you can use the tab button to autocomplete the command, and it'll try to autocomplete it for you. Let's say I wanted to show the configuration, right? And I only know the first two letters, SH, right? And I don't know the rest of whatever the command is. So I just press tab and it'll autocomplete it for me, okay? And it's like show, but show me what can I do from here? So simple. Type in the first part of the command, or don't type in anything at all and just hit question mark. So from here I'm gonna hit question mark. Alright, and if you see the word more down here, you can press the space bar to complete it. Okay, and then you can scroll back up. And now you can see that it gives you a list of what your options are. At any point in time, anywhere you are, you can always look for a command by just hitting the question mark. Whether you know a little part of the command, let's say you don't hit any command and you just do the question mark, it will just give you a list from the at the beginning of the commands. Let's say you did show, now it'll give you a list of all the commands that have to do with show. So right here you can show the axis list, you can show the clock, to display the system clock. So let's try that just for fun, right? Show clock. Okay, and it'll show the system clock, which is, you know, a little bit off, but I think it's mountain time. I'm not sure. Okay, but anyways, we're still in enable mode. Okay, just so you know, just that's the two ways: tab by auto completing and question mark. Okay, which will, you know, it will kind of like, it's kind of like asking, you know, asking you shall receive. Okay, so enter the show the running configuration. Okay, that's one of our vocabulary words, which is running config. And running configuration shows you. Actually, let me pull up the vocabulary list really quickly also, so you can read the definitions documents. Okay. Alright, here we go. I'm going to scroll down to the section where this would be. Switches and routers. Okay. Here it is, enable mode. We just did this, right? It's a level of privilege that we enter, okay? A part of Cisco IOS CLI in which the user can use potentially disruptive commands on a router or switch, including the ability to then reach configuration mode and reconfigure the router. Okay, and we just did that. So basically, from, let's see, here's my CLI again. Oops, I'm sorry, those are my instructions. Here's my CLI. All right, so basically we're in enable mode right now, so we can show things. And watch, here's how I reach configure. From here, it's basically telling me, like, look, from this point, from enable mode, see, enable mode, I can reach other levels of privilege. This is like the starting point of privileges, right? So I can reach something like configure terminal. Look, and now all of a sudden, I can make changes, any change I want to this router, just because I'm in the configuration mode. And again, pay attention to what it tells you, because it'll tell you where you are in the router in terms of privilege level and what you're able to do, anything. And if you want to go back one level of privilege or one level back, you hit exit and it'll take you one level back. And I just hit enter again. It took me one level back. Let's say I was in configure terminal, right? And I wanted to get out of everything. I just type in end, and it'll take you out of everything all the way to this point, you know. And you can even restart, go all the way back by hitting exit again, and it'll take you to, like, if you just plugged into the router, right? You hit enter to return, and you're back to a user mode, like user exec mode. So I'm gonna hit enable to go back into privilege mode, and from here I'm in enable mode. Basically, this is what it's talking about, enable mode. This is where I can start to have real access to this router. Okay, where are my instructions? Okay. This is the logical topology, but it doesn't really need to be up as long as you know where you, like, here's my S1, my switch 1, and here are my instructions, right? So right now I just need my instructions, and here are my definitions in the back. Okay, show running configuration. Okay, so let's type that in. We can do that from here. There's two ways to do this. You can do it from the privilege mode by typing in show running dash config. Okay, again, whenever you see the word more, you just hit spacebar and take it all the way to the bottom. and you take it all the back, and it will give you everything that's configured in the router. Show running configuration. Show, when you say show me the running configuration, you're saying show me what's running on the router right now. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's showing you the permanent configuration. Basically, if I were to make changes to this right now, it would be the running configuration. But if I were to shut down the router or restart it, then all the work I've done, all the configuring would be gone. So it's very important that you save it to something called a non-volatile random access memory, which is basically, it gets saved into a file. This file is called the startup configuration, and that's your NVRAM. And that's the file that it loads up every time it starts up. Okay, so you can see right here that there's nothing configured here. There's no IP addresses in the interfaces. Here's fast Ethernet 0/1, and right here will be this port right here. Fast Ethernet 0/1 and 0/2. You see right here there's a 1 with an arrow on the top, so it's 1, and the 2 is the one on the bottom because it has a little arrow pointing at the bottom. So that would be Fast Ethernet 0/2, Fast Ethernet 0/3, Fast Ethernet 0/4, and so on. Okay. So we just told the router, hey, show me this running configuration. Show me what's configured on the router right now. And that's an important thing, because we can find out IP addresses of how many interfaces are on here, who's connected on here, what's their IP addresses, and this is all security concerns. So you definitely want to prevent people from getting to there, and we're going to do that in a little bit. So one thing also, there's two ways of doing show me the running configuration. One is from this mode, from privilege mode. So right here would be just show run. That's a shortcut way of typing show running config. Alright, and the other way is if you're in configuration mode, which means you're making changes to the router and you don't want to go back. So let me do that right now. Configure terminal. The way to force it is by typing the word do in front of it. Okay, do show run or show running dash config, whatever you want to do. Okay, and it'll do the same thing. Okay, it's just for efficiency, so you don't have to keep going back on privileges if you're already there. Alright, so we just did this. Answer the following questions. How many Ethernet interfaces does the switch have? Let's check it out again. I'll hit the up arrow key to go back in the history of commands, just like in Linux. Let's see. Oh, I guess I closed it. Show run. There it is. Alright, how many fast Ethernet interfaces does this switch have? Well, you can count them right here. It starts up right here from 1, 0/1, and it goes all the way down to 24. So it has 24 fast Ethernet interface ports. Alright. How many gigabit Ethernet ports does it have? 2, 0/1 and 0/2. Okay. And fast Ethernet goes at 100 megabytes per second. Okay. That's the speed of data transmission, and the gigabit obviously is at 1,000. Okay, what is the range of values for the VTY lines? So you have VTY lines are right here. All this information we're getting it off of just showing the running configuration. So we have 0 through 4 and 5 through 15. So basically 0 to 15 is your range. Okay, and your VTY lines is to remote into here from another PC using Telnet or SSH. But obviously preferably SSH because Telnet is clear text, and clear text is never a good thing. Which command will display the current contents of non-volatile random access memory? Okay, so let's see, how will we find that out? Okay, so let's type that in. Show me something, right? Show me what? The non-volatile. So I don't know what that is, the command is, but let's do the question mark thing. Alright. So show me something. Let's see. What are we looking for here? We're looking for non-volatile random access memory, right? And what is that file called? It's called a startup configuration, which is what gets loaded up every time your router or switch starts up. It's the file that gets loaded. So it's right here. Contents of startup configuration. This is your NVRAM file, okay? So we're just going to type that in, start up, and I'm going to autocomplete it using the tab just to show you that you can do it. See? Enter. Startup config is not present. Okay, why does this switch show that the startup config is not present? because we haven't saved anything to the startup configuration file. We need to save something there in order for there something to be there. So let's add some stuff for there's something to be there, okay? Let's see, we've gone over enable mode. We've gone over enable mode. We've gone over NVRAM. We've gone over your running config, and we've gone over your startup config. So you want to make sure you write that stuff, this stuff down as we're going by, and remember to always reference back to the vocabulary. The purpose of this lab is just so you can get a context of this vocabulary, and as we go along into later labs, then these labs will become less about vocabulary, because hopefully by then you will have good knowledge of this, and more about actual packet tracer stuff once you get to state round, because you will get to state round if you follow through with these labs and you do your work with Linux and Windows rounds, and yeah, you just have to work hard. And here's the switch, a network device that filters. So this is the logical topology right here. It's these two guys right here. These two guys. So let's go over that. A network device that filters, forwards, and floods frames based on each frame's destination address. The switch operates at the data link layer, which would be the OSI layer 2 of the open system interconnection OSI reference model. Okay, so that's the definition for a switch. Basically, it's the new school of a hub. Okay, because hubs were dumb, but a switch, it's smart. It doesn't have any collision domains in it. You know, you can even segregate it. You don't even need two switches. Let's say if you had two subnets, if you had a couple PCs here and a couple PCs here, you can create a virtual network, multiples of them within the switch itself, to have different subnets and have them not communicate with each other if you wanted to. If you could only afford one switch, that's all you would need if it had enough ports, like this guy right here. Because you can logically zoom in. You can logically create different like this area right here could be a network like 192.168.1.4, like that 1.0, and then this right here could be 192.168.3 and a 255.255.255.0 network, which is a class C network. Again, don't forget that the subnet mask, which is what I just talked about, is it tells you what bits are turned on. So it tells you what your network is and what your host is, okay? And you can divide it up within the switch. So you can have, it's like if you had multiple switches within the same switch. So these things are amazing. These guys are intelligent, much better than hubs used to be, which is why they're obsolete now. Okay, so again, one more time, enable mode, we went over that, which is when you go through when you get to a level of privilege, and if you want the actual definition, let's go up. Here's NVRAM, non-volatile RAM, a type of randomized memory that retains its context when a unit is powered off, which means it's a startup config file. So when you bring the unit back up or start it up again, it'll automatically load that file. Okay, let's see, where is that enable mode? It's part of the Cisco iOS CLI, in which the user can use potentially disruptive commands on a router or switch. But you know, for us, since we're blue team, we're defending, so we're definitely configuring and securing. One thing would be to do, if you're not using ports, all the ports that you're not using on this router, let's see, you had this router turn on, let's say you use these ports for all your devices, right? And you have all these unused ports. You know, what was the first thing you would do is, like, you know, bring down the ports, you know, administratively shut them down to make sure they cannot be accessed. Okay, that's just one thing of security then. Alright, so we did that. Startup config is not present. Let's configure some stuff on here, yeah? So we can have something to save onto the startup config. Okay. So let's make changes now. Okay, so we're in a place right now where we can start making changes. So let's type it in. Let's see. If we want to make changes, you have to be in global configuration mode, and the command for that is configure terminal. Okay. So we're in configure terminal right now. Let's see. If I were you, I would take this entire thing right here, this guy right here. This guy right here, just copy it over, copy it. It doesn't copy like that. Use Control C to copy it. How about that? Open up your notepad and say to enter configuration mode and just do this Control V for Control V paste. And you'll know exactly what it's supposed to look like. Okay, I want to enter configuration mode. It'd be this. All right, and then I could split this guy up right here. And go like this. Add or change host name of device. All right. Bam. That's what it would look like, right? This will be the command to add the host name or to change the host name. Okay. But in this case, it wants us to make the host name S1. Remember, always write this stuff down, including the vocabulary words. Keep referencing back, go through these labs, and keep referencing back to the vocabulary list. I can't stress that enough. It's very important that you have a good context of this so that you'll know what it means, not just memorizing stuff, but it matters. As a matter of fact, it'll help you memorize these words so much better, just having some place to reference it from, or having knowledge of where it's coming from. Okay, so we're in configuration mode. So let's make a host name now, because now we can make changes. So you notice that right here it has the name switch, but we want to change that to S1, capital S1. So we're going to type host name, capital S and a 1, enter. And you can see how the host name changed to S1, okay? And let's go back one privilege by typing exit. There we go. Alright, so now the console port, which is also one of our vocabulary terms up here, a physical socket on a router or switch to which a cable can be connected between a computer and the router switch for the purpose of allowing the computer to use a terminal emulator and use the CLI to configure, verify, and troubleshoot the router or switch. Okay, so again, like PuTTY or hyperterminal, that's what you would use in that situation. In this case, we're going to create a password for that because we don't want anybody to just plug in and be able to change the configurations. Okay, so it's basically this thing will ask you for a password as soon as you plug in. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, how do we change things again? Get into configuration mode. So configure terminal. Okay, configuration terminal. Okay, it wants us to make the password to secure access to the console line, access config line mode, and set the console password to let me in. Okay, exactly how it is. So the command to configure a password for the console port, which is the port that you need in order to make administrative changes to this from another computer, is line from global configuration mode. Is line console 0. Okay. Again, notice how it changes right here because it's telling us where we are in the configuration. We're configuring, and we're configuring the line, the console port. In this case, there only has one console port, so it would be 0. If you had 2, it'd be 1 or 2, depending how many console ports you have. Most have only 1. Okay, and the command to set a password, the command is password space whatever you want the password to be. In this case, it wants us to set it as let me in, but you can set it to be whatever you want it to be. The command is just password, but you have to be in this level of privilege right here. Okay, so password is going to be let me in. Alright, okay, now you notice that there's another command here called login. This command is basically we're telling the switch, hey, we're setting a password, but we also want you to enforce the password, because if we only set this command, it would have the password there, but it wouldn't ask you for the password. Like, it wouldn't enforce it unless you type in login. So enforce this password at login. Okay, and there it accepted the command because it gave us no errors. So now we go exit, go exit again. Okay, now we're here. How about we exit one more time, like if we just started up the switch. Let me say we just connected to the switch, right? So let's hit enter, like we want to do something. Oh, look, it's asking us for a password, right? So if anybody were to plug in here, the very first thing they're going to see is a password and the message of the day banner, which we'll configure in a little bit. So let me in. Again, your password won't show while you're typing it, but it is typing it. So just press enter. There, we're through. Okay. So why is the login command required? Again, the login command is required to enforce the password. It tells the switch to enforce the password. Okay. And we tried this stuff already. Okay. Now we want to secure the privilege mode. Okay. So let's do that. So enable. Oh, I'm sorry, just click right here. So, by the way, EN is the shortcut for the shortest way you can type enable. So EN for enable. We want to make changes again, so we want to type in configure terminal, right? Because we're about to make a change. We're about to add a password. What are we adding a password to? We're adding it to enable, right? So we type in enable. The command for password is password. It's just a plain text password, and it wants us to make it C1 $sign C0. Okay, boom! It accepted our command because it didn't tell us about any errors. So we go exit 1. Okay, now let's verify this. Okay, let's exit all the way out by typing exit again. Let's pretend we just plugged in with through the console port, and we're trying to do something malicious to the router, right? We just plugged in and it's telling us, hey, time to get started. All right, let's do this. Oh no, it's asking me for a password. What do? I don't know the password. I know the password, but hopefully they don't know the password, right? So let me in. All right. Yes, I'm through the first stage. All right, now I can start to access a privileged exec mode from which I can view everything and make changes from there. I can go up higher levels of privilege, right? So let's type that in, enable. Oh no, another password. Look, another level of security. So that always helps. The password for this one was C1 $sign C0. Enter. There. Now it didn't show me typing the password, but it is typing it, so don't worry, okay? Okay. We did this part already, we verified. Okay. Now we want to change the password so it's encrypted. Let me show you why it's not encrypted, okay? I'm going to run the command show run for show running -config. Okay. You can plainly see the configuration. The host name is S1, which we did. The enable password is C1C0, which is clear text, which is never good, It's definitely a bad thing. Don't want people seeing your password. Oh, look, and here's our line console password, which is let me in. That's horrible. You never want to let people see your passwords. Okay, so let's make it a secret then. So the command for that is want to make changes. So again, configure terminal. Okay, now we want to change it, enable. Instead of enable password, this time we're going to make it an encrypted password. So enable secret is a command to encrypt the enable password. And we're going to say the password, it's a secret. So it took our command. Okay, exit. Now when you encrypt the password for the enable mode, the encrypted password will override your clear text password. Though they might both be visible, your let me in password, your C1 $sign C0 password will no longer be usable. So it's going to be the new password, it's a secret, because it overrides the clear text password. Okay, so now enter the show running configure command to verify the new enable secret password is configured. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, so let's go exit one level. Okay, ask us for a password, which the first one is let me in. Okay, now enable, right? I'm just going to type the whole thing out. Password, I'm going to type in C1 $sign C0. Oh, it doesn't work, right? Because it was overwritten by the new encrypted password, which it's secret. There we go. Now you can see that it was overwritten. Okay. If I do a show run again to see what's configured now. Okay. You notice this is still clear text. That's not good. And I go back up here. Here's my encrypted password, which is encrypted. And here's my unencrypted password, which doesn't matter because it's no longer useful. As long as it's an encrypted password, this is the new password, but you can't tell what it is because it's encrypted. Okay, but we still have this password that's encrypted. That's clear text. This one right here. And we also have this password, which is also clear text. So we want to go ahead and encrypt the rest of the system passwords, okay? For that, we want to make changes again. So again, configure terminal, and we're going to run a service. Service, password dash encryption. Okay, let's say I didn't know that command, right? What can I do from here, right? Let's do the question mark. Right? Okay, modify use of network and base services. All right, let's just type that in real quick. Service. Well, what can I do for the service? What kind of services is available? Let's do service space question mark. Let's see, I can run a service on enable DHCP server and relay agent. I can also do encrypt system passwords, which is what we're looking for, and I can run a service that logs messages. Okay, and does a debug. Okay, so we're looking for password encryption here, so we're going to do a password, and I'm going to be lazy and use the tab to finish it for me. There. And we just encrypted all of our passwords, and to show you that we did it, I'm going to do another show run, but I'm not going to exit. I'm going to do it from here by typing in do show run, because if I'm in config mode, I have to do the word do in front of it. Okay. Yeah. So now you can see that this password has been encrypted, and this password has been encrypted. So you know it's a good thing that all passwords are encrypted now. It's just a little bit harder for the bad guy to get a hold of our passwords. Okay. So let's do our message MOTD banner, which is message of the day. That's maybe vocabulary words. I have a separate list here with some vocabulary words. Let's see if it's here. There we go. We did this right now. Encryption is the ability to take data and send the data in a form that is not readable by someone that intercepts this data. Okay, so encryption can happen in all the three stages of data. It's three states, okay, which is data at rest, and also there's data in motion when it's being transferred from one place to another, like a VPN. That would be a kind of encryption that uses IPsec, which is a term referring to the IP security protocols, which is an architecture for providing encryption and authentication services, usually when creating VPN services through an IP network. So basically, your data is moving through a imaginary tunnel where nobody can see through the tunnel till it gets to its endpoint. Okay, so there's data at rest, in transit, right, and the other data, which is in use. So while you're using something, that's the three states of data. Okay, and firewall, we'll go over that some other time. Just trying to go over a couple things just to get you started. A port, we went over that. In TCP and UDP, a number that is used to uniquely identify the application process that either sent source port or should receive destination port. 2, in LAN switching, another term for a switch interface. So we've been dealing with number 2, switch interface, which was these guys right here. These are your ports. Okay, and the other one is like logical ports, like your port 21 for VIP, port 23 for telnet, such and such. Okay, that kind of stuff. Port 443 for HTTPS. Port 80 for HTTP. Port 110 for POP3, and so on and so on. Let's see. Those ports. Those are the two kinds of ports. Your logical ones, the ones that are numbered to identify a type of service, and the ones that are physical ports on the back of the switch. Okay, what else did we go through? Let me see if we went through some of this stuff already. Let's see, what else did we go through here? We're going to go through all this stuff at some point. Don't worry about it, guys. Okay, no. VPN, we'll go through that with more detail. I just want to see if we have that one word that we were looking at. We need to go over that. We're gonna go over the OSI model for sure. Go over that. Let's see. That. SCMP input request. Oh, we can definitely go through that. That's one of the ones we'll go over in the next one. IEEE has to do with VLANs. The IEEE 802.1q has to do with VLANs. We'll go over that. Ping, which is the same thing as the echo request and echo reply. Subnet, we talked a little bit about that when we talked about the VLANs within a port. Subnet mask, we talked a little bit about that, about which bits are turned on and which bits are turned off. It pretty much tells you what part of that address is your network. Okay, go over this definition. Trunking, that's all VLAN stuff. We're going to go over that. Okay, partial mesh, console port. Okay, so we went over console port, we went over enable port. Flash memory, a type of read-write permanent memory that retains its content even with no power applied to the memory. Basically, this would be the difference between an SSD drive and your regular mechanical hard drive, the one that looks like an old record player and has mechanical moving parts. The flash memory is nothing but integrated circuit. So it's like little chips that have no moving parts. Okay, that's how it stores stuff. So it's much faster to load up, and there's less of a chance that it'll have some kind of damage to it, or something should happen. Okay, NVRAM, we went over that. That's your startup config file. Running config, this is what's running on your switch at the moment. Your startup config, that's what loads up, which we haven't saved yet, and the switch. Let's save that. Let's see here. Yeah, so the banner of the day thing is actually not on there, but let's save what we have on there so far. Okay, so we're going to exit. Okay, because as you can see, we're going to copy what's in our running configuration, and we're going to put it in our startup configuration. So we have copy and the origin and the destination. Okay, so let's copy that to what we have so far. Okay, so copy running, do the tab, and put it in our NVRAM. Do the tab again, enter, and hit OK. Just hit enter again. There we go. Now show me the startup config. Show me the NVRAM. Show me the startup config. There we go. Show the startup configuration. Now it's showing us what we have saved so far. We put the passwords and the host name. Okay. So yeah, I think that's as far as we're gonna go for today. I just kind of wanted to get you guys going on what to do and how to go about learning this vocabulary word with a little bit more substance. And on the next video, we'll go over a couple of other these words like ping, the echo request, the echo reply, ROM, RAM. We can go over that right now. It's just memory that's used like in the moment to. We'll go over it next time, so I can talk slower and take my time with it more. We'll go over. Let's see what else we're gonna go over. We'll go over VLAN probably. We'll go over subnet in more detail. So yeah, so that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Again, if you have any questions, this video was made for cybertitans.org. So if you have any questions, please post them up on the forum in the Cisco section. And you know, whether it's Cisco related or Linux related or Windows related, it doesn't matter. Just post questions, post information that you get, share information, you know, share the love. Let us know what you need from us. Check and see if you have those folders. If you don't, let your coach know, and they will let one of us know, the regional coaches, and we'll get the folders out to you. We'll get you those labs, and then by that I'm talking about these guys right here. These three guys right here. Alright, if you don't have them, let us know. We'll get them to you. Start working on this stuff. You know, hit the Linux hard, hit the Windows hard. Again, you can find all this information and more at www.cybertitans.org. Once again, my name is Ernesto Vasquez, and thank you for watching.